Okay, welcome back to the No Money Real Estate Podcast, Barbados edition. I'm just getting ready to head to the airport now, but I had a few more minutes and I saw this question that a dear friend of mine, Melanie Scheel, was asking me to record a video about. So I'm gonna get into this episode. Here's what she said. Can you give me the first 5 action steps one should take if they wanna get started in investing in short-term rental real estate? Now, obviously that is my expertise. That's what I've been doing for over 10 years now. And I'm gonna walk through this. I love this idea of laying it out in a 5-step strategy. Now, this might be 5 or 6 steps, but I'm gonna do it for you. I think it's gonna be amazing. And then another friend of mine said, all things cottage rentals, finding the right property, finding the right contractors. So I'm going to go over all of this in this video and answer the questions that Melanie Scheel and Lori Delanette both asked me to do. And I'm going to get into it right after this.
Hey, my name's Ken Dunn, and I'm a real estate investor. I want to welcome you to the No Money Real Estate Podcast. On this show, I'm going to interview elite level real estate investors from all over North America. And I'm going to help you to see one thing that all successful real estate investors have in common. They built their portfolios without using a dime of their own money. I've got a portfolio of $300 million in real estate. That includes resorts, apartment buildings, commercial buildings, and I built the entire portfolio without using a dime of my own money. Real estate is a business that anybody can get into, but the strategies that those tight real estate investors use to build massive portfolios have been kept secret for decades. Now, because of this show, I'm going to reveal them to you. So let's get started.
Hey friends, well listen, as everybody knows, I love short-term rentals, and we have a portfolio right now of 11 individual short-term rental properties. And in addition to that, hospitality. We're opening up 3 major resorts in the next 12 months. And man, oh man, it's been a ton of work to get here. It's been painful. I won't lie to you about that. Gosh, there's just so many days that I look back and I wonder how we made it through it, but we did. And we're going to start making our investors a whole bunch of money. But listen, to the point, what's a really good 5-step plan for getting into short-term rentals? And I want to walk through this. And Melanie, thanks again for asking this question. Let's get into it. The first thing I'm going to tell you is if you're thinking seriously about getting into short-term rentals, you first got to ask yourself, what type of short-term rental do you want to get into? Now, the way I see the world, there's 3 different ways that you can do short-term rentals. All of them have benefits and challenges associated with them. The first one I want to call vacation short-term rental. So cottages and vacation property, very, very specific niche. You can make a boatload of money with doing it. We're going to walk through that. But there's another. I like to call them in-city short-term rentals. So there's the business travelers and the family travelers and the short-term rental units. So remember, short-term rentals evolved as a option for or a differentiation from traditional hotel stays. I'm staying at the Courtyard Marriott Hotel here in Barbados right now, and these hotel room in the Courtyard Marriott is costing me $500 a night. So short-term rentals are a great option for that, for vacation or business travelers in the cities. Now, there's a third type of short-term rentals that I'll get into. This is a lot more complicated. You can make great money doing it because you don't even have to own the properties, and that's called short-term rental arbitrage. So the first thing you want to do is decide what type of short-term rentals you want to be in. Now, my whole portfolio is predominantly vacation short-term rentals, but we have some in-city short-term rentals now too. And I'll tell you why you want to listen to me and take what I tell you seriously about this subject. It's because we've cracked the nut. So our 11 short-term rentals right now in the last 12 months have made over $650,000. We're averaging about $60,000 in income per month with our small portfolio of short-term rental properties. And then when our resorts start opening, obviously that number is going to go through the roof. And look at the months of July and August, because that's the best time you can see the potential for vacation short-term rentals. Anyway, let me give you a couple things that you should keep in mind when you're deciding what type of short-term rental you want to do. Vacation short-term rentals, I think, is the absolute best way for somebody to get started. Go find a cottage for your family. Notice I said for your family. The reason I got into short-term rentals is that I wanted to own a cottage with my family that I could take my kids to, that our family could share with friends and family. But I knew with how busy I am in life, I would never, ever be in a place where I would really maximize my use of the property. So I bought a property and then I said, well, I can't use it all the time, so I might as well get into short-term rentals. And I started running some ads, filled the place up, saw the potential of it, and the rest is history. But the reason I love vacation short short-term rentals and I think you should go get a cottage, it's because if you use this strategy, which I'll walk you through how to acquire the properties, how to make the money with it, the whole 9 yards, you can do this without a dime of your own money. You can end up owning a beautiful 5-star cottage. And even after you use it as much as you want with your family, you can make $5,000 or $6,000 a month in income on top of that. So let me ask you a question. How many cottages making $5,000 a month in profit in your pocket would you need to own before you'd quit your job and do this full time? Yeah. Imagine if you owned 2 cottages that were making you $5,000 a month in income. After all the expenses of those cottages, gosh, you could live the rest of your life just running 2 short-term rentals. That's the power of this business model. So that's the biggest reason why I say you should do a vacation short-term rentals. You get to use it with your family. It's the best of both worlds. Now, short-term rentals in the city, why would you want to consider that? Well, frankly speaking, in every jurisdiction in Canada and in most of the United States, there are rental rules for long-term rentals. There are rules that municipalities and governments have put in place to protect the people that are renting the properties, and some of these provinces and states have made rules that are so arduous that they create deadbeat tenants. What do I mean by that? Well, some provinces, like the province of Ontario in Canada right now, the rules about short-term rentals are so in favor of the tenant that tenants will slum there at the property, so they won't even pay their rent. It's a fascinating situation. But regardless of where you're doing long-term rentals, you're going to be facing rules. There are leases, there are lease agreements, there are occupancy, and there's standards you have to do. Short-term rentals, no rules and more money. If you're renting a 2-bedroom apartment in Ontario, Canada right now, in the GTA, in the Greater Toronto Area, you're going to get about $2,500 to $3,000 a month for that 2-bedroom apartment. I have a short-term rental that's a 2-bedroom apartment that we rent for $400 a night, and we're booking it 20 to 25 nights a month. So let's say it's 20 nights at $400 a night. That's $8,000 in income versus $2,800 in income. Now, there's going to be some tenant rental advocates that see this video and they're going to criticize me saying I'm greedy and I don't want to help. Go watch some more of my videos. You'll see that we're doing a lot to help the housing crisis as well. It can all exist in the same world. Now, I'm going to talk one time about short-term rental arbitrage because it's something you might want to look at. It's just a hell of a lot more work than doing the first 2. In arbitrage, what you do is you go find somebody that owns a condo and is trying to rent it, but they don't have a tenant in it. And you pitch them and you say, let me rent it from you. And I'm going to be transparent with you. And I'm going to tell you that I'm going to do short-term rentals with it. But I'll pay you your $2,800 a month and I'll take all responsibility. That's arbitrage. Everything else about how you rent a short-term rental is the same. So anyway, let me tell you, if you want to own the properties, which I think is the great thing to do because it's about assets, right? My short-term rental portfolio right now with the 11 properties is worth about $15 million. So that's $15 million in value that I have. Now, I've got about $8 million in mortgages on it, so the net asset is worth $4 million right now, but that's the big reason why you should do vacation or in-city short-term rentals and own the properties. Now, how are you going to do this? It's really simple. When I am looking for new cottages, I always want to make sure that I'm going to buy a property under value and I can increase the value significantly. So let's talk about cottages. When you're looking for cottages, here are some of my golden rules. I call them the 7 gems. When I'm looking to buy a cottage, the very first thing I want to look at is how developed the property is. In other words, what I mean is I will only buy 3-season cottages. The reason I only buy 3-season cottages is that they're cheaper. These are cottages that are not insulated properly and they're not meant for the winters. And people that own these cottages truly use them as vacation properties and they shut them down in the wintertime. So they bleed the water lines, they clean them all up, and they come back when the snow is gone and the freezing is over. Did you know I've done this 14 times where I buy an old dilapidated 3-season cottage and I renovate it and I turn it into a home, like a 4-season home, a waterside, beautiful home, and I can normally double the value of it. Here's what it looks like. I'll give you an example. When I first got started, I bought a property on a lake called White Lake in Ontario. It was a 3-season cottagey and it was on beautiful waterfront lot. I paid $460,000 for it because it was a 3-season cottage. And then when I renovated the property, I put $250,000 into it. So I owed a total of $710,000. But when the renovations were done, the property was worth $1.4 million. And you can figure that out. Now, there's some other rules that I follow. I want to make sure I get a 3-season cottage. The next thing is I want to make sure that it has really good winter access, because some of these 3-season cottages are in areas where the whole world shuts down and there's no road in the wintertime. That's no good for me because I want to rent my places year round. The next thing is I want to make sure there are no neighbors anywhere near my property. I have this little thing I do where whenever I'm looking at a cottage, when I'm there, I'll stand outside, I'll close my eyes, and if I can hear the neighbors or if I can see the neighbors, I won't buy it. I want isolation. The biggest reason is when I first got started, I had a couple cottages that were like in these cottage subdivisions where I could touch the cottage next to mine. And in every one of those situations, the neighbors hated the short-term rentals. Well, I shouldn't say they all did, but they complained about the short-term rentals, and it was really, really difficult. So I just have a rule now: isolation, out of sight, out of mind. It's better for them and it's better for me. And what I realized later on is the people who rent my short-term rental cottages, they like the seclusion. So I'm going to look for cottages that have no neighbors around them. The other thing is I want to make sure that the cottage is really level, that it has good bones. And I use a couple little fun techniques to do that. Whenever I go look at cottages, I bring an old bonker, a big marble, and I'll just put it on the floor and I'll make sure that it doesn't roll around. So everything is nice and level. And then the rest is all about underwriting the deal. So when I find a cottage that I think will work, I want to figure out what it's going to cost me to buy it, what it's going to cost me to renovate it, and what it's going to be worth after the renovations. You know how I figure that out? Well, the first thing I do is I get the real estate agent to help me. So I'll ask the real estate agent to show me comparables of other cottages that are for sale as is, so I can make sure what I'm paying for this cottage is a good price. And then I'll say to the real estate agent, I'll tell him what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a second bathroom. I'm going to add 2 more bedrooms. I'm going to lift the house up, put a basement in. I'm going to insulate it. I'm going to put engineered hardwood flooring in. I'm going to put quartz countertops in. I'm going to make this a beautiful house. I'm going to replace all the windows, replace all the shingles on the roof. Tell me what it's going to be worth when it's finished. Go find me 3 other houses for sale in the area. It's called comparable marketing. And tell me what this place is going to be worth. So that agent will come back and say, when it's finished, it'll be worth around $1.2 million. Now, I can't live by that, but that at least points me in the right direction. So I look at that value and I say, okay, I'm going to buy it for $460. I'm going to put $250 into it to do all the renovations. So that means I'll owe $700 and it'll be worth $1.2 million, which is what I need to hear, because I know that in all those areas where cottages are, I can get a refinance done because I have good credit. They never ask me about my income because they know the cottage is going to make money as a short-term rental, and they'll give me a new first mortgage up to 60% of the appraised value. Okay, so that gets me in the right ballpark. That tells me that I can put an offer in on a property. But when I put an offer in on a property, I'm going to have 3 conditions in the offer. Number 1, I want to have an appraisal done. Number 2, I want to come back and see the property 5 times before closing. That's so I can get my contractors in and get quotes done before I own the property. And number 3, I want to make sure I have a 90-day closing. The reason I need 90 days is that's how long it takes me to get the private financing together. So they accept my offer. I'm going to give them a $10,000 deposit. People say, well, where do I get the $10,000? I use an American Express Platinum card and I do a cash advance on it that as soon as I raise the capital, I pay my credit card back. And then if they accept the offer, I get my appraisal done. Now, listen carefully to this. This is the most important part of doing this. When you use your appraisers, get a double-ended appraisal done. Now, they won't know what that means because I think I coined that phrase. But whenever I get an appraisal done, I ask them to do 2 appraisals. I wanted a value as it is right now, and then I give them a copy of my budget and my plans for renovations, and I say, tell me what this place is going to be worth when I'm finished the renovations. It's called an ARV appraisal, an after repair value appraisal. Now, most people listening to this video will never have heard that before. but I can tell you it's real because appraisers have been doing it forever. Whenever banks are thinking of financing somebody who wants to build a house, they get an appraisal done. It's an ARV appraisal. So when that appraisal comes back, if the ARV appraisal says it's worth 1.4 or it's worth at least double the total of what I'm paying for the property and what I'm putting into renovations, then I'll move forward. Now, let's talk about funding these projects. I always borrow 100% of the money to do this. Now, some people will say, how do you do that if you're borrowing more than it's actually worth? This is how it works. In that case, it was a $460,000 purchase. I got $300,000 in a private mortgage through a mortgage broker. And then to get the other $160,000 to close, I borrowed $80,000 from two of my buddies. Actually, I got 180 grand, so I borrowed 60 grand each, come to think of it. But it's not just the money you need to buy the property. You need about $20,000 in closing costs to cover the land transfer tax and the lawyers. So 3 guys give me 160 grand from their RRSPs. Most people don't know you can do this. It's really simple. And I teach a lot of my friends to do this so I can borrow their money because I can make them more money than they're getting currently with their RRSPs. There are 3 banks in Canada that are called self-directing banks: Olympia Trust, Pacific Western Trust, and Canadian Western Trust. You have to set up an account with one of those companies. I suggest Olympia Trust because they're the biggest. So then the first thing they do is they move their money over there and then they can lend it to me and I can pay them 15% interest. So I got 3 buddies to give me 60 grand each. That gave me enough money to buy the property, pay the lawyers, pay the land transfer tax and everything. Then, because now I have an appraisal from an appraiser, an ARV appraisal that says when this place is finished, it's going to be worth $1.2 million. I put together a lender's package, which is a Google Drive that has all the documents that I need in it to show a lender. And I go raise 250 grand. So in that case, I needed $200,000 to do the renovations. That was to lift the house up, put a basement in, insulate the house, put new flooring in, put 2 more bathrooms in, put 2 more bedrooms in, new decking outside, new grass, a new fire pit, and a new dock. The other thing I will raise the money for, because there's going to be some of you guys that are watching this video and you're saying, well, where do I get the money to make the interest payments on this crazy expensive money? I borrow that money too. So I figured out for a year, if I had a $300,000 first mortgage, $160,000 second mortgage, and a $250,000 third mortgage, I needed 50 grand just to do the interest payments. So I borrow that money too. This is called underwriting. This is figuring out how the math works on a deal. And I do all this before I waive the conditions. And it's all because of that ARV appraisal. So when he tells me it's going to be worth 1.4 million, if I do the renovations within 6 months, I'll look at how much money I need and then I'll decide if it's worth doing. So if my total expense for the project is 460 plus 250, so that's 710, and it's going to be worth 1.2, that means the value, that extra 600,000, that's now value I own and I can leverage to get a mortgage with a credit union. And that's what I did in that experience. Now, the next thing, when you're renovating these properties, you have to make sure that you turn this location into an experience. So make sure you use 5-star luxury finishings, engineered hardwood floors, 3-pane windows, beautiful quartz countertops, beautiful kitchen cabinets, tiled bathrooms. Don't put those insert showers in because that's not a luxury experience. Get a really good tiler in there. Tile the bathrooms. And the most important thing, a mini Nordic spa. If you guys go to cottagedreamvacations.com, I'll put the link to that website in the chat. You can see our whole portfolio there. The one thing you'll see in common with all of our properties, a hot tub, a cold plunge, and a sauna. And we literally, all of our cottages are booked at about 90% occupancy, and it's because of that. Our guests tell us all the time they love the mini Nordic spa. They're coming because of the mini Nordic spa. Then they love the properties when they see them too. That is the secret weapon. And if you'd like to get a mini Nordic spa for your house or your property, I'm going to put a link to our hot tub company in the notes of this episode as well. You can go to www.canhottub.com. All right, so now you got your renovations done. How are you going to fill this thing up? There's a couple little things that I do to make my properties actually rent like crazy. Number one, I can do this without running ads or with running ads, but most times once I get the property set up, I'm going to run ads first. Oh, there's one more thing I have to tell you. We're doing short-term rentals. We're not doing Airbnb. Let me say that again. We're doing short-term rentals. We're not doing Airbnb. Did you know there are 14 different websites online that you can list your short-term rental property and people will book them, some of them are going to blow your mind. You guys all know about Airbnb. There's VRBO. There's vacations.com. There's Google Vacations. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Did you know that you can list your cottage to rent on Expedia.com? On bookings.com, on apple.com. Yeah, all of the sites that the hotels are on, you can put your cottages on as well. Now, the way you do this is you use a platform that we use for all of our short-term rentals called HostAway. HostAway is an aggregator. HostAway lets an individual cottage owner like you put their cottage on all of those platforms and you manage it through HostAway. So a HostAway subscription is going to cost you about $40 a month and then you set it all up. So you set it up on all the platforms, you link it together on HostAway and then you start marketing it. Now, what are some really inexpensive ways that you can market your property? First thing I'm going to tell you is Facebook groups. We have a team at our company that we are constantly posting everything to do with our short-term rentals in Facebook groups around the lakes. Every lake in Canada has a Facebook group. Every city in Canada closest to a lake has a Facebook group. So we are always posting links to our cottages in there. We do it so much that people remember them. They see the mini Nordic spas in our listings and they book them. The next thing we will do is we will put posts on our Facebook pages and we'll boost the posts and we'll run ads. But I never spend more than $500 on an ad, and I only run the ads for a short period of time. So whenever we launch a new property, I'll run a quick ad on Facebook, and that just gets more people coming to the page. And we run it right to the Airbnb page, because that's where most bookings are done. Airbnb's algorithm works like this. Airbnb watches to see which listings get the most eyeballs. Once they see that a listing is getting a lot of eyeballs every day, Airbnb's algorithm says that's a popular property, and it starts showing them to more people. So we run ads for the first 30 days to get lots of eyeballs on the page. Then the algorithm kicks in and it starts showing the property to other people. And that's really the whole crux of our marketing. Last thing I'm going to tell you is superhost status on Airbnb is important. About 70% of our bookings do come from Airbnb. Get yourself up to the superhost level because Airbnb will start to market your property for you. All right, that's all I want to share with you now. That was a boatload of information. I will tell you though that I regularly do an online webinar. And if you're interested in knowing more about short-term rentals, come and watch this webinar. I'll put the link to the webinar in the show's notes as well. And the other thing I want to tell you is I do run a little coaching community. It's called the Dream Cottage Business Coaching Community. You can pay a couple $100 to join it. It's a private Facebook group. I built an online course where I teach all of this to people. And look, the fact of the matter is this. If you really want to do this, but you're nervous about making a mistake, join our coaching community. It's a couple $100. I'll help you to get the money. I'll make sure you're finding the right property. I'll make sure you get the right contractors. I'll even help you set up all your marketing and make sure your property is successful.